Hi, I'm Mike Papantonio, and this is America's Lawyer. The Oracle of American politics has unveiled his prediction for which candidate he believes is going to win the White House this year. We'll tell you who that is. And New York Governor Kathy Hochul is in deep trouble after one of her aides was arrested for acting as a foreign agent. Democrats are now worried that Hochul's nonstop scandals could cost them big in New York this year. And another school tragedy has been once again gripped the headlines. But here's the point. The case is being handled in the way it should be. We're going after the parents. They're looking about what is it that the parents have done that we might be able to prosecute. All that and more, it's coming up. Don't go anywhere. America's Lawyer starts right now. College professor named Alan Lichtman has been called the Nostradamus of American politics for accurately predicting nearly every presidential race for 20 years. He's made his predictions this year. I've got Farron Cousins with me to talk about those predictions. Farron, it looks like Nate Silver, who's calling a 63% chance of Trump winning, versus Lichtman. I mean, you know, who do you believe? If you go back and look, there's a lot of flaws in both of them.
There really are. And I think at this point, everybody is kind of throwing everything at the wall and let's see what sticks. You know, Lichtman, of course, he's got 9 out of the last 10, and he only missed the 1 because it was Bush v. Gore, which was a super weird situation anyway. But, you know, if you look at the regular polls, a normal person would say, okay, yes, it looks like Harris is going to win. Seems like a safe bet. So I don't know that you need the 13 keys if you're just looking at what the numbers say, okay, this would work. But Nate Silver is looking more than just the numbers on the surface. Right. Not that he has been 100% correct either. He hasn't been. And in 2020 and 2016, he was way off the mark. Everybody was way off the mark. But he's looking more at the swing states. You know, forget these national polls. National polls do not tell us much at all. This race is probably going to come down 5 or 6 states.
Yeah, I was surprised to see the number spread, though, for Nate Silver.
That was
massive. I've never seen him do that before.
Yeah.
He's been off 3-4 points. You know, but here's 63% chance of winning, if Trump winning. And he says that, you know, first of all, he does it with his mathematical data. He's a guy that predicts baseball outcomes and basketball outcomes, and they do love him in Vegas. I mean, they really do love Nate Silver in Vegas. Now, the professor, on the other hand, says, I've had these 13 keys. We've talked about these keys in the past before, and they're legitimate. They make perfect sense. Yeah. But I think what we have to do is avoid all this. I mean, you know, as you were talking about earlier, you've even got astrologers that are coming in. You know, Moon is lining up with Venus, and that's telling me that this candidate. I mean, at some point, don't you have to say no? All that matters is what's happening at the ballot box, right? Go out and vote. Don't be influenced by any of this stuff.
Exactly. And, you know, you're right, because we don't just have the professors or the numbers people. The psychics are out there making their predictions. The bookies in Vegas.
Bookies are big on this one, man.
They really are. And, you know, it's kind of gone back and forth. At one point, Trump was obviously way ahead, then Harris. Now I think it's swinging back. Yeah. So, you know, a lot of people want to make a lot of money off of it, but really, nobody knows. This is all a guessing game until those votes start coming in, you know, November 5th. But right now, even with the polls, even if you look at these polls, okay, well, she's ahead in 4 swing states, he's ahead in the other 4 swing states, but they're all within a margin of error, even the national polls. And I don't know, it seems odd that everything is so close. Yeah. And I do think the media, to a degree, pushes a horse race. Because if either one of these people was running away with it right now, nobody's tuning into anything.
Look, don't believe Nate Silver. Don't believe Lichtman. Go out and vote. I mean, that's the answer here. And don't, you know, if you want to read it, if you want to read some astrology for the hell of it, read some astrology or talk to a psychic. It doesn't make any difference. What makes a difference is showing up at the polls. Now, a lot of times you'll see, we've talked about this, parties use polls, don't they?
Yeah.
That Trump will go out and he'll get some cat at a college, do a poll, make it look like I'm winning. Harris will do the same thing. And I guess what it does is it empowers people to say, I got a chance. I'm on the winning side.
Yeah.
I want to go out and be one of the winners who votes. But look, at the end of the day, just go vote.
Yeah.
I mean, New York Governor Kathy Hochul has always been deeply unpopular, but the arrest of her chief of staff last week for acting as an agent of China has made the situation much worse. There are now fears that Hochul's nonstop problems could hurt the underticket for the Democrats. It's not just this case, by the way. You know, she had another person who worked prosecuted for bribery.
Yeah, her first lieutenant governor was
Yeah.
arrested and
For bribery.
prosecuted. So Kathy Hochul's entire administration, you know, first of all, let's not forget the fact that she came in after Cuomo. And Cuomo ended up towards the end there an absolute disaster. He was the rising star of the Democratic Party.
Yeah.
He was the guy that they originally were talking about, hey, if Biden can't, let's get Cuomo.
Yeah.
And so, okay, it ends in disaster. He's got to go. We get Hochul.
Yeah.
And Hochul somehow has managed to be so much worse than the end of the Cuomo years.
Do you know what? Do you remember Cuomo? When Cuomo said it, I thought, well, of course you're saying she's going to be awful. But he said she's going to be awful.
Yeah.
And maybe he knew she was going to be awful because he knew all of these things were in place, all the things that she had to try to overcome. The crime issue, it's killing her. It is absolutely killing her. The issue of housing in New York is killing her. The dealing with immigration in New York is killing her.
The pocketbook issues, the surge pricing
absolutely.
in New York. It took her 2 years to get a bill passed with a Democratic-controlled Senate. Her appointees to the courts getting shut down by her own Democrats. 39% approval rating. The state is telling her, we don't like you. And the last thing she needed was, okay, well, you may not like me, but at least my friends aren't going to prison. Well,
They are going to
they
prison.
could be, yeah.
Yeah.
So,
well, I mean, I remember listening to it was Cuomo and it was all of his kind of, you know, his flying monkeys. She's going to be awful. She's going to be terrible. This is going to happen. Well, they knew. It was already there. It was in place. But this gets a little crazy when you have your one of your key staff members interviewing, saying that we can't allow the Taiwanese ambassador to come to the United States. She stopped that.
Yeah.
I mean, she did stuff like that because she was working for China. And all of this influence peddling she's been doing, this person who's being prosecuted. But there's no way that you can say that doesn't reflect on leadership. I mean, I'd hate to think we've got, 250 employees here? I'm probably going to know if something's wrong. I mean, I'm going to hear bits and pieces, you know.
and it's almost sad what this employee got in return for all of these huge favors.
Yeah, talk about it. I thought same
she
thing.
got some. She got some duck dinners.
Yeah, twice fried.
yeah.
She gets twice fried duck dinners.
Yeah.
I mean, it's almost comical.
I mean, you know, hey, we need you to do all these favors, get China all these special favors in New York where we want to do business. We're going to make billions off of it, and we're going to take you out from nice
How about
wings.
her husband, Ho? What's his name, Ho?
Yeah.
Okay, so
He-
he's a Chinese businessman,
Right.
So he benefited directly from that.
Yeah. So this is, you know,
not just twice fried duck.
Yeah.
He got some other stuff.
Yeah, so he is, of course, also one of the individuals that's been indicted here. And yeah, he is deeply connected to these individuals. So it's very obvious, based on the indictment, that she is abusing her position, using it to get her husband rich, using it to fill her belly, I guess.
What do you think of her? What do you think of Hochul? I mean, when you watch her speak and you go, what do you think?
From what I've seen, again, you know, I don't get too much involved with the state politics, but what I've seen from all the friends in New York and all the folks on social media, they despise her.
Yeah.
She has been horrible on the economic issues. She's been horrible on all of the, immigration, on crime, on everything. Just dropped the ball. And even Nancy Pelosi now is starting to worry, hey, we've got a real problem because even though you're not on the ballot this year, you're a
hurting them.
Democrat and you're at the top of the food chain in New York, and that's going to hurt us.
I love the way she went back at Nancy Pelosi, though. Okay, so Pelosi says you're going to cost us elections, and Hochul comes back and says, "Really? You cost us this many House members in California, Pelosi." It's just this cat fight, this infighting that I just think is so interesting. I think this is the end of her career, unless she does something really extraordinary. A new lawsuit brought by right-wing religious organizations could soon make political donations a tax-deductible item, which could lead to even more corporate money flowing into our election process. I got to tell you, I like The Lever. I read The Lever just like you do. I think it's a good source of information. But I read this story, and they really missed something, okay? He spends a lot of time talking about this 501c3 transition, that you've got dark money folks that want to say, we ought to make this tax deductible too, because he focuses on the church.
Yeah.
But what he misses is, and this is a good, if you're a Democrat, this is a great thing for you.
Yeah.
The Democratic dark money is much more right now than the Democratic Republican money. So it's kind of one of these things, be careful what you ask for. The way this was handled, I thought was kind of one-sided.
To be honest, I thought the exact same thing too, because this is not just a right-wing issue. Yes, the lawsuit is being brought and funded by right-wingers.
Right.
But what's even weirder here is yes, the churches, the religious groups are bringing it, but they're not the ones funding it.
Correct.
You have these, big corporate, big money donors that are funding this, and they're using the churches as their shield. Mm-hmm. So you have these churches that have now gone to the courts because they're hoping to get it to the Supreme Court, saying, listen, if we are not allowed to engage in politics, that's a violation of our free speech rights. Right. So they're trying to make it a very simple First Amendment argument. And if we talk about politics, you strip us of our tax-exempt status, so you've now empowered the IRS to limit our freedom of speech.
Okay.
That is their argument.
You got problems with 501c4 on its face, don't you?
Yeah.
These are, the Supreme Court looked at it, Citizens United, and they said this is a social welfare organization. They're doing social welfare. This much, if this is 501c4, how it's used, this much may be a social welfare. The rest is political donations.
Yeah.
And so right now, the Democrats are dominating the dark money. There's no question about it. I think that the chances of this really, if anything, maybe it'll give us a chance to take another look at Citizens United and say, no, there is no social welfare here. There's no loss of freedom of expression or First Amendment rights. They'll look at the whole thing, because it's a mess right now. I was taking a look, Politico, I think the last cycle they put this one organization, 16 Truly, it's called the 1630 Fund. The 1630 Fund had put $410 million into that Democratic run within about a month. I mean, the money comes in quick. It comes in quick, it comes in big. And the Republicans are saying, hell, we want to do the same thing. We want to expand our ability to raise money, and they're using 501c3. I think it's dead on arrival.
It should be, because look, what these billionaires and corporations are trying to do is say, look, if we can get this to a point where it's tax deductible, then which is what the lawsuit's all about, we can then deduct up to 60% against our income.
Right.
So if my income is $100 million a year, I can write off 60 million of it by giving it and paying off and buying politicians. So that's what they're after here. And to me, it's a really weird timing of filing this lawsuit, because obviously before it could go to the Supreme Court, which is where they will end up, it's going to take years.
Yeah.
And years from now,
could be changed, could be different.
Exactly, especially if Harris wins, because Clarence Thomas, he's kind of defying the laws of nature right now, still being around and on that court. So it's only a matter of time before we start getting some vacancies.
Don't we look at every story like that, Farron? Don't we always say, okay, this party wants this to happen right now, okay? And it's almost like they have an inability just to look 10 years down the road and say, if we change this that dramatically, we're going to be affected by it.
Yeah.
And I think this is one of those stories. It's the same kind of deal. I think if you right now, Democrats are way ahead on dark money. I don't know where this is going to go. I don't think it puts anybody in any better position, but I don't think it's going to pass at all. I don't think they're going to go anywhere with 501c3 change that gives them a tax benefit like that.
I really hope so.
The Department of Justice announced that they had indicted several individuals last week who were using Russian government money, according to them, to spread propaganda in the United States. But even if everything in the indictment is true, these efforts were so lackluster. I was glad to see Ken Klippenstein is, you know what I think of him. He's a great writer. He's just he's so on point. But he says, look, he made a comparison. He said, all of the money that these two people have been accused of doing, they were able to generate 2,000 videos, okay? And the views were 16 million views with the 2,000 videos. He said, if that's a success, Klippenstein said, I generate 463 million views with just what I do in my little blog.
Yeah.
We're kind of the same situation. If all we generated was 16 million views with what we do, we'd be out of business.
Right, and I mean that if we had 2,000 videos that only got 16 million views, it's time to pack it up. I mean, we get 16 million in about a week or 2 weeks at this point. So, and that's off 50 videos. But,
right.
So it is laughable how pathetic the scheme was, and just so everybody knows, the podcasters and the people that were being paid, none of them were hit with any charges. Basically, they were doing stupid things not without even realizing it. They didn't ask questions about where the money came from, and technically they didn't have to. But common sense would say, well, wait a minute, where'd you get 10 million? But anyway, they were just happy to get the money. But the two individuals were only charged with acting as an unregistered foreign agent.
That's what I was going to say, right there. Now, okay, you had Garland. What a disaster. Garland's up in front of, like, we have uncovered the most vast spy network ever uncovered in America. Well, no, you really didn't, Garland. You're making an issue out of something that, yeah, it's good we're paying attention to it, but to tell the American public that the DOJ has really uncovered this vast conspiracy it's a disservice. Because as I'm listening to that, I want to say, Garland, how about you prosecute if you want to prosecute somebody, how about you prosecute the manufacturers of opioids that killed 150 people a day for 10 years, okay? Addicted more people than we can count. They could easily be charged with manslaughter. I don't think there's any question about it. Why don't you do that? Or, Garland, why don't you deal with the thousands of people who were dying from exposure to PFAS? Because the manufacturers knew exactly what they were doing. They put it into they spread it all over the world, and people are dying because of it. Why don't you do something about it? Why don't you do something about HSBC or banks, all the banks that were with HSBC, who admitted, signed a document. Yes, we washed money for terrorists. We wash money for drug cartels. We wash money for cartel traffickers involved in human trafficking. Why don't you do something about that? Why don't you prosecute them? Instead, every one of those three facts that I just gave you, they had all of the information and they let them walk. Nobody was prosecuted. But here, we've got them acting like this is just revolutionary. We've got this huge spy ring taking place in the United States. It's disturbing to me, man.
I mean, what about Boeing, right?
Oh,
I mean, Boeing kills hundreds of people. The DOJ announces this year, we're going to let them go. They violated the, non-prosecutorial agreement we had, but we're going to be okay with that.
Well, talk about that. Just put it in. Explain that a little bit, just to show how ridiculous this is. That's why Klippenstein said, you guys are a bunch of freaks. You're wasting our time.
This very same DOJ that did a press conference about this issue, they, a couple years ago, made a deal with Boeing after the doors were flying off and hundreds of people were dying in crashes. And they said, listen, we're not going to prosecute you. We really, really, really just need you to make these changes, put these kinds of bolts in, do this, have the regular safety checks that you weren't doing. Do that, we're not going to prosecute you.
And they said, okay, give me the document.
Yeah, Boeing says, yeah, we'll do that. And then Boeing didn't do it. The DOJ investigates again and says, well, you didn't do what we told you to do, and we said we'd prosecute you if you didn't, but we're still not going to prosecute you. You just give us some money. What was it, $1 billion maybe? Or no, I think it was a couple $100 million. And now you're free to go. But on this one, The issue here, and look, I'm not saying I condone what happened at all. This shouldn't happen.
No,
but the
no,
reason
of
these
course
people
not,
are
but-
being prosecuted is because they didn't fill out a piece of paper.
Right,
If they'd have filled out the piece of paper and said, "Yep, I'm a foreign agent here. Here's where the money is. There's your paper," this would have been perfectly legal.
Yeah, all I'm trying to say is if we're going to call bullshit, let's call bullshit, okay? And if you want to really do something, Garland, do something about kind of cases we're talking about. Prosecute some white-collar criminals. They don't look like criminals to the Department of Justice because they're dressed up in Armani suits.
And it's
okay?
the people they used to work with a lot of times.
That's right. It's like this revolving door. I don't know, man. To me, Klippenstein got it. He made it into a joke, and the column is great. It makes it look how ridiculous the whole thing is. The tragic school shooting in Georgia has reignited debates about gun control in America. That may be a problem that never gets solved, but that doesn't mean that there isn't a solution out there. And the way this case has been handled could offer an answer to help prevent tragedies. First of all, we have to admit this is a tragic occurrence in America time after time, and we keep saying, what a tragedy. Yeah. And then the same people keep saying, well, we only have one thing to talk about, that's gun control. Great to talk about that. But why don't you talk about something that might make a difference? Like this prosecutor who says, you know what, I'm going after the parents. The parents, it's not just negligence. I mean, they're saying the conduct by the parents in this situation rose to manslaughter quality, okay? Pick it up from there.
Yeah, what we're looking at here is obviously, according to the prosecutor, who's already arrested the dad, and they've said, listen, the dad obviously didn't carry this out. What the father did was ignore all of the warning signs that have been there for at least 1 year, if not obviously longer, and still decided to give his child this high-powered assault rifle as a present. Last year alone, this child had an incident where he was posting some threats online. So the school did an investigation, the police did, they talked to the parents, told them, listen, your kid has a problem, something bad could happen. And they said, okay, well,
we got this.
Yeah, don't worry about it. And then they buy him the gun.
Yeah.
They didn't do anything to address any kind of mental health problems he may have had. And then tragedy strikes.
To toughen him up. Did you see that article? To toughen him up. I'm going to get him the gun. There's pictures of blood on his, he's obviously killed an animal and daddy's put blood on his face, like that's going to toughen him up. The problem we have, and I think if you look at also the Crumbly case that took place just last year. Was it last year?
Yeah, last year was the prosecution.
Yeah, and those parents were prosecuted and they were convicted. And the prosecutor did such a good job. This prosecutor in Georgia, I'm convinced, is going to do a great job here. He's going to line up facts. He's going to say, at what point do we act responsibly? If the kid is in a room and he's locked the door and he's in there watching killing games all day long, and he doesn't speak to you, and people at school saying, we're really worried about this kid. And he's writing stuff like this Crumbly kid had written right before he killed all those people. It's just, at some point, the only solution is you have to scare the hell out of parents with the fact, you're going to go to prison. We can put you in prison for not being a parent. Not being a parent who knows what your child's doing, who is aware of all the machinations going on in his head as best you can be, and not paying attention to what has to be paid attention to. It's not even a matter of just, hey, we're going to make a law to lock up a gun case. That doesn't really solve it. Kids going to find out how to get in gun case. Yeah. But it's the overall picture of how, don't we have responsibility to raise a child that's not going to go out and kill other kids that go to school with.
Exactly, and that's why I think this is such a powerful move, just like what they did with the Crumblies, because these parents in both instances saw all the same red flags. And that's what the prosecutors are telling us, is that it's not enough to see them. You, as a parent, have a duty to act. Mm-hmm. That's what it is, the duty to act.
Right.
If you do not do anything, or if you do something like then buy them the gun to make things, worse, this is on you. And so hopefully, again, the gun control debate is always going to be the gun control debate.
Exactly.
We have too many politicians that will or will not do something. I don't think that part of it's ever going to be solved.
There's two things you and I have talked about over the years. First of all, make insurance make them have insurance that's really expensive.
Yeah.
Okay? You can own a gun, but you have to have insurance on that gun.
Yeah.
And the prices, they're going to be high. And parent, you have responsibility when you have all these things happening that are foreseeable. It's foreseeable that something's going to go bad. Like the Crumbly kid. I mean, he was drawing these macabre drawings of guns and bloodied up people during a math assignment. He's sitting there drawing these killing people while he's in math. And at the top of it says, "My thoughts won't stop. Help me, help me. My life is useless." If you're a parent, I mean, isn't that like, my God, this is serious and you need to pay some attention. And right after that, he goes out and just kills kids, kills teachers.
I mean, that one cannot be any more crystal clear. Yeah. Literally calling out for help on something they knew they were going to turn in. Mm-hmm. And we do have this mental health crisis here in this country, and we have such a poor apparatus to handle it that things like this do happen more and more frequently. And I don't know if it's a lack of resources, within schools, within families to get this mental health, but if we could get some kind of program together, maybe that could stop this. Because again, we're looking at a situation where we're not going to control or solve the issue of the guns, but we can solve other parts of the problem that could reduce this. Yes, I know what I want my solution to be. I want the assault weapons off the streets altogether, and a lot of other folks do too. But if we can't do that, okay, well, we got to find another workaround quickly. Right. And this could be it. Hold the parents responsible, do the insurance, get the mental health help for these individuals.
Required. When a teacher says, "I just saw this note, he's drawn bloodied people," and say, "Help me, help me, help me," it's required.
You know what? Maybe shave $100 billion off the defense budget each year and direct it just to that, and hey, we could fund the whole thing.
Okay, last story. I keep getting emails and say they want to know more about you. They want to know about your background. You went now. I hired you as a kid. I mean, really, weren't you 19 years old?
Well, 21. I just turned 21 a few months before.
And you just come out of political science where you aced everything and you pushed, you pushed all the right wingers back in class. And then what they want to know is, what is it you do to get ready for the way you present a story? What is it you do? How much digging do you do? How much time do you spend? What does your day look like in that regard?
It's constant. I don't think there's much time where I'm not looking at news or anything like that. If we sit down in the evening and watch TV, I will pull up my phone and start digging through news and reading stories and things of that nature. I do that on the weekends. I do it first thing in the morning. Typically, I'm the first one in this building every day. And I sit down and I'm reading. But that's the thing, I'm reading.
All the time.
I do not watch cable news. I do not watch other YouTube people. I do not listen to a single podcast. I don't listen to anybody else. I read and I form my own thoughts and my own opinions and talking points, and that's what I do. And that's what I don't want to tell people, don't watch the YouTube people or the podcasters, but in order to form my opinions and get my own information, I do it myself. I don't want other people to tell me.
The other thing people ask about constantly is, okay, if I have a side that I'm trying to project, either because I think it's something that we're trying to balance out the narrative or whatever it may be, they're always saying, well, Farron, why don't you jump on Mike about what he disagrees with you on? Or Pap, why don't you jump on Farron about what is your take on that? When you see those kind of comments, I mean, we've been dear friends for all those years.
Yeah.
Sometimes you and I disagree. I think people sometimes hear me with these right-wing, they're not really right-wing, they're middle of the road, but they interpret that as right-wing, and they say, why don't you just jump all over Pap and push back? Talk about that relationship a little bit. I think it's important.
We have respectful disagreements sometimes, and in a lot of cases too, you make a point, and if it's contrary to what I was already thinking, but you make sense, it's okay. I hadn't thought of it that way. And that happens a lot. I think it happens a lot with both of us. I'll say something and you'll be like, oh, that is an interesting way to look at things. Everything doesn't have to be an argument. And I think people that are so online are just used to arguments. I got to fight in the comments. I got to fight on Twitter. I want to watch these two, political commentators go at it. That's not what we do, because we agree on 99% of things.
99.9% we agree on everything. What is it that you do that you want to make this show a little different in that regard? What is it you want to accomplish with this show?
I think, with America's Lawyer, this is about stripping opinion away, which what we do at Ring of Fire is, mostly opinion based in fact. This one is we've got to get news out to people because it's not getting out there any other way. So we rely on all these individuals, who do real investigative work. We rely on your history and lawsuits that you're working on. This show is about straight to the facts. This is what we're going to give you. We're not going to skew it one way or the other. We're going to make sure you learn something, and then you can form your own opinion based on this, which is perfectly great. We hope you do. But we're giving you facts here. And sometimes, a lot of times, it can be facts you don't like, but you're going to get them.
You've really formulated the idea of this show. I mean, when it comes right down to it, that's what I hope to accomplish. I mean, like I say, if you looked at my politics, they are not almost exact.
Yeah.
But in this show, what we try to do is say, think about something else. I mean, that was your idea from getting away from just the straight Ring of Fire attack. I think it's working.
We want people to think.
We want people to think. Thanks for joining me, Tim.
Thank you.
Okay. That's all for this week, but all these segments are going to be posted right here on this channel in the coming week, so make sure you subscribe. I'm Mike Papantonio, and this has been America's Lawyer, where we tell you stories that corporate media won't tell you because their advertisers don't let them. They're going to lose money if they tell that story, or their political relationships are so Democrat or so Republican that they can't color outside the lines. We don't have that problem here. We have no tie to corporate. We really have no tie to political parties. We just try to give you the stories as we see them. Thanks for joining us. Hope to see you next time.
That it had helped dirty money flow through its branches around the world, including at least 800...
Plaintiffs allege that the defendants provided money and medical goods to terrorist groups Hezbollah and Jaish al-Mahdi.
This is a well-organized business for these individuals that carry out these attacks. Terrorism is a business, and they run it like a business.
They knew about what was going on for a decade. They absolutely, no question about it, knew that HSBC was washing money. They had every reason to understand it was for terrorism and it was for drug cartels. Took no action whatsoever.
These banks are involved. Their accounts are connected, and they're using them to mask the transactions. The more complicated they can make the transactions, the more distance they can put between the bad guys and the seemingly legitimate purpose of these funds.
They pay $1.9 billion, which is a drop in the bucket compared to what they've made, and nobody goes to prison. These CEOs, these bankers that made this decision, they're safe at home. They know what they've done. It's resulted in the death of Americans, contractors and soldiers, not just hundreds, but thousands. And we look the other way because they don't look like criminals. The die is cast. The people that are responsible are on Wall Street.
And they don't look like criminals. It's almost a suspension of disbelief. Sometimes I'll have people call me and say, is this real? Do they really get away with this? Yeah, they do.